Hi, I'm going to ask Rebecca a few questions this afternoon.
Okay, so at Gunnedah Conservatorium, we're really keen to see young people and children studying music from as young as 6 months old. And, that might sound very young, and, certainly people have commented to me over the years that, do you have babies come to music? Really? Aren't they a little bit young to do anything? But there is so much research about the benefits of music, and particularly early childhood music, and the impact that it has on brain development. So really, from the moment that the baby is born, you can be singing to them. Even in utero, you can be saying lullabies and talking to your baby, and then that can continue on. And here at the Conservatorium, we start with formal lessons at 6 months of age, and then we have our early childhood music program, and then our early childhood music program really links well into studying an instrument later on. So between after our early childhood music program and until about years 7 or 8, we might recommend a more generalised music program, like doing music activities in a group. And then when it comes to an instrument, there's a few different options for younger students. So violinists can sometimes start very young, because we can get a modified violin, an 8th violin or a quarter violin, so the child can manage that instrument and hold it. Whereas if you can imagine with a guitar, if you put a full-size guitar into the hands of a student who's only about 6 years old, they can't really manage the instrument properly, and so there's probably that probably has an impact. So we probably wouldn't recommend that a year 1 student start on guitar. And same thing to some other things, like, a year 1 student might have a beautiful singing voice, but you probably wouldn't put them into a formal singing lesson at that young age. So probably for year 1, we're probably looking for something, either a group music lesson with a group of children the same age, or one of those modified instruments like a violin. And maybe towards the end of year 1, when their fine motor skills are developed more, we could probably look at trying to start on piano. But it all has to do with the child's attention span, and we balance that out with the size of the instrument. So I would probably say for those young students, if we can get a modified string instrument, that's a really good way to go. Yes, or a group lesson. People hate hearing them mentioned, but recorders are an amazing instrument, because you're learning to play, you're learning to read music, you're learning where the fingering goes, and it's a really good way to introduce yourself to the treble clef as well. So the biggest benefits of music lessons for children, I think I mentioned earlier, is the impact that music has on brain development. There's been lots of studies and more knowledgeable people than I, but there's a great body of study to say that impact of learning music from an early age has a great assist to sort of overall brain development, and all the neurons in your brain are firing. It has great benefits from that point of view. There's lots of people who also say, learning a musical instrument, it becomes a thing that is their break time, their rest time, their relaxation time. So, you might start learning an instrument at a young age. You might not go into a career in an orchestra or in a band, but those skills that you learn from music make you an appreciator of music. So you like to go and listen to music, you like to go and watch music, or maybe you never reach a really high, like the highest standards, but you pull your guitar out and you play guitar for your family members, or get on the piano once a year and play the Christmas carols. I think can anyone really imagine a day without music in it, without hearing a song on the radio, without hearing a bird song? For most people, music is such an integral part of our lives that it's great to have that from a young age. Yeah, look, I guess what we find at the Conservatorium is that the parents who are really engaged in their children's learning and supporting their children's learning, they are the children that have the best outcome. So, I think the thing is that students only are at the Conservatorium for 30 minutes a week, or maybe if they come to one of our groups, maybe a little bit longer. 30 minutes is a very small amount of time in a 24-hour day, and an even smaller amount of time in a 7-day week. So the amount of music that people here are doing at the con is a very, small amount of their overall learning. You have to be going home and practicing. And I guess for parents, and look, I know this from my own experience, and I look back and I suppose it's a little bit like, I wish I knew that then. I really do wish that when my children started their individual lessons that I had been more engaged and more focused on supporting their practice at home. And that might be me sitting with them and saying, oh, play me a song that you learnt today in your lesson. Or, what did Michael say that you have to do, for homework today? Show me what you learned. It doesn't mean that you have to have a great knowledge of music. A lot of parents say to me, oh, my child loves music, but we're not great musicians in our family, so what do we do to support them? It's just asking that question and getting them to play at home and to encourage that as much as you can. So I guess the example, Michael, is that if your child's really good at gymnastics, for example, that means that they might have to go to the gymnastics club 3 or 4 times a week. Now, if a kid's really good at music, they don't need to come to the conservatorium 3 or 4 times a week, but they need to be doing that practice at home. So there's some great ways you can do that. And as I said, it doesn't mean that you have to be an expert in music yourself. It's just showing an interest in their learning, asking them to show you what they've played, asking them, sitting in with their practice. Because I think the one thing about an instrument that can be quite lonely for kids is that they can come home from their music lesson and then the next night you say to them, oh, go and practice. And generally you're sending them off to another space, like go and play on the piano, or go and practice in your room, or go away from where all the activity is happening in the house. So one strategy that I've heard is a really good idea is to create a space. Look, can't do it for all instruments, but if your child is learning guitar or violin or one of the woodwind instruments, make a space in the kitchen. And when you're cooking dinner at night or washing up the dishes, you can say, oh, come on and get out your instrument and show me what you learnt this week, and play for me. And I guess what we then find is the more practice you do, the better you get, the better you sound, the more you enjoy playing. And then you practice more. So, I think if parents can support that learning as much as they can, and they can show interest, so that they're not being like the authoritarian, like go and do your instrument practice. They're being more encouraging, and they're saying, show me what you've learned, let's play together, and just make that 15-20 minutes a day. I know there's a lot of conflicting things, but I know I once met a very we had a gentleman here once who played in the Sydney Symphony Orchestra and had been a great musician in Australia, and he just mentioned, my grandson is learning an instrument. My daughter gets up every morning at 6:30 to help him with his practice. So they might be doing they might be playing the piano instead of swimming laps at the pool, but you can still support them. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Again, there's so many studies about this, Michael, and so many different things, that music is helping children to, develop in school and in life. But some things that we talk about is, if you're learning to play a new piece of music, there might be a certain level of problem solving in that and cracking the code. And so that's a skill that you can apply to other parts of your life. So being able to, effectively when you do music, you're learning another language. And what we also know about language is that every time you learn a language, it's easier to learn the next language. So that's another great a great thing that music can do for people. So it's building your skills and your overall, skills of understanding and analytical. I think the other thing about music, and particularly when we play music in groups, it's about teamwork and working as a team and, making sure everyone's playing their part. So, that's just a touch of the iceberg. touch of the iceberg. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So many ways that music can help us in our lives. We have adult learners that come here to the conservatorium, and I don't think it's ever too late. You know, what a great skill in life to be continuing to learn and find new interests as you get older. And you know, again, you know, in terms of keeping your brain stimulated and active, and you know, great to be learning anything, but you know, probably particularly music later in life. And I guess what I find, and I'm an adult learner myself, I've gone back to an instrument that I played a very little bit of when I was at school, and I've gone back and I'm having formal lessons this year. And it comes back to the situation with your children learning music. The hardest bit that I find is finding the time to practice. So I know that in weeks when I make the effort to practice and I carve out, you know, 15 minutes or maybe 20 minutes, or you know, I came in here one day on a Sunday and I thought, oh, I'll just do half an hour of practice. And before I knew it, I'd been practicing for 50 minutes. In those weeks, when I build the practice into my week, I have a much better result in my lesson and I feel like I'm advancing. So I would say for an adult learner, definitely not too late to learn or go back to an instrument, but you need to have that time to practice, because the time you're here at the con is just a small little time. Then if you just want to be involved in music for the joy of it and the fun of it, and maybe not such an imposter in terms of, you know, practice time, the other option is to join something like our sing-alongs choir, which is for older people in the community. It's on a Wednesday morning. It's a very social club. They sing all the songs that they grew up with and that they, you know, love from their childhood and their youth. That's a really great group. And then we also have the Blenders Choir. Now that choir, we actually probably should practice a little bit more when we're in that choir, because we like to enter the Eisteddfod and be a bit more competitive. But you know, there's other things that you can do as an adult that are also great opportunities to learn music. Yeah, look, I mean, the Eisteddfod's a fantastic event that we have here in Gunnedah. You know, it's been going for more than 70 years. It's community run. A great bunch of volunteers. It's on every year in May. So really, if you want to be in the Eisteddfod, you should start working on your pieces at the start of the year, or maybe even the end of the year before. But it's a wonderful opportunity. The Music Eisteddfod runs over 3 or 4 days, lots of entries from our local schools, but then also lots of opportunity for individual entries across piano, the various different instruments, vocal. Yeah, it's a real focus for the town. Yeah, and it's got a great reputation. But in our region, you know, if you're preparing something for the Gunnedah Eisteddfod, you could possibly also look at entering the Narrabri Eisteddfod. It's on around the same time. Or even, you know, if you're very motivated and you really want to show off your skills, you get down the road to the Tamworth or even the Armidale Eisteddfod. Yeah, it's a really great program. It comes from the Welsh tradition, from, you know, for people who are maybe not from a Australian background or a European background. So it comes from the Welsh tradition. Eisteddfod, it's an unusual word, but it basically means it's a competition of the performing arts. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I guess we have a number of students who do the AMEB, or the Australian Music Examination Board exams each year. It really gives you a level, so you know how you're achieving and what level you've reached. You're getting assessed by an independent person, so someone comes from outside and assesses your skill. And I guess you're also, you know, ranked against people from all across Australia. So, you know, when you get like an A or an A plus, and we over the years we've had students go very well in exams, be very well prepared by their teachers, and get those, you know, honours and credits. It really is showing what your standard is compared to other people. And then the exam program's not for everybody. Some people feel nervous in exams. It might not be the right model for you, but it does give a really good idea of your skill level. Yeah, and a way that from year to year you can develop and go further with your music. I mean, I guess the other thing, Michael, is that it is seen as a level of recognising your skill level. So if you do want to go on and study music at university, those that level that you've reached in your AMEB exams with your local conservatorium, they are recognised by tertiary qualifications. So if you wanted to go on and do a Bachelor of Music, you've got a qualification that's recognised. I mean, and the other thing that we do use that as conservatoriums, as institutions, to get an idea of the skill level of our teachers. And so, yeah, if you've reached a higher level of an AMEB exam, it might give you an opportunity to go on and be a teacher yourself. And that goes quite, and there is actually within the AMEB system, they do have also sort of a qualification that is for studio teaching and the like. But yeah, it gives us a really, as conservatoriums and looking at employing people, it gives us a good idea of their skill background as well. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, what makes us special is, I guess we really are the hub for music in Gunnedah. We want to make music accessible to everyone in our community, whether they want to learn an instrument or be part of a group, or whether they whether we're supporting a music program within a school. So our teachers go into schools and support the teachers in developing choirs and recorder ensembles and different groups within a school environment. So I guess what makes us different from, someone who's just, put a sign up outside their house is that we have a structure around what we do. We encourage our teachers to undertake professional learning and professional development. We'll check in on their skills and make sure that they're suitably qualified. We also place a really big importance on child wellbeing and child safety. So we create an environment where children are welcome and where they feel safe and protected. And we know that the students that come to the conservatorium, that they actually do really love coming here, and they feel really connected to a community of music makers and sharing that with other people. And it's great here of an afternoon when kids are coming in and seeing their friends from school who they know from the choir or meeting in a group and making music together, because it is really about creating that hub, that network of making music together. Broad range of things that people can do at the conservatorium, from individual tuition to being part of a group. Our musical performance group has become very popular over the last few years. We've got more than 30 children in that every week. We've just started some new programs to kind of support youth bands. It was great. The other day I was in the town hall, and in one room kids are singing songs from Wicked, and then I walk into the other room and kids are singing, great rock songs. I Love Rock and Roll by Joan. I think it's Joan Jett, but I think that's the right name. But you've got that happening in another room. You've got the drums going, you've got electric guitar, you've got classical guitar. Just such a broad range of what we can offer. And it's not just one teacher teaching in a certain way. Like, there's different teachers here. Everyone brings their own experience and their own skill and their own high level skills, and I think they provide a great learning environment for our students. And that's from people from very young, from as we were saying at the start, from babies and toddlers right through to our adult learners and the people that come along to the sing-along choir on a Wednesday. I guess the common denominator is that people seem pretty happy to be here and pretty happy to be making music. And we're very lucky that in a town the size of Gunnedah, that we have a conservatorium, that we can provide this hub of music tuition, that we can offer jobs to qualified teachers, and that we can make sure that that there's consistency and kids always have that opportunity. Kids and adults and everyone in the community has that opportunity to learn.
All right, I guess that will be the end of the interview today. Thank you very much to our director, Rebecca Ryan.
And thank you, Michael. It's been wonderful to talk about some of these ideas about the conservatorium and the importance of making music. And we hope we see you at the conservatorium soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.